Today on the DML News podcast, people from all over the country, all over the world really, asked questions they need to be answered. And they're asking me to give those answers. And that's what we're going to do today on this version of Ask DML. So get ready because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Ryan, my son's on the controls. Denny's sitting across from me. We've got an Ask DML for you. Before we get into it real quick, dmlcbd.com/store, dmlcbd.com/store. You can see I've got the new TeamDML shirt on. Great little story. I've told it a couple of times, so I'm going to tell it the last time here. We have a softball team here in Indian River County, and I'm sponsoring the team through TeamDML. We ordered jerseys. They got lost. We went out and bought new jerseys, and then the ones that got lost got found. So what we said was, why don't we sell these? We'll give them away. All right, fine. So people said, hey, I missed out on the first time. So we went back to the vendor and we bought another bunch of shirts. You can get one. We would help if you did. It's a dry fit shirt. It's fantastic. It's nice and light. It's great, especially if you're sweating. Dry fit is the way to go. We've got it in medium, large, extra large. Go to dmlcbd.com/store. The shirts are $25, all brand new. If you do it, we give you two free bottles of the DML CBD face serum. That's how you get it, dmlcbd.com/store. Also, we still got at that store the $10 thing going on where you get any item that we have up there for $10. Right now, the big seller is Denny's book, The Wild Adventures of Robin and Summer. He will sign the inside of the book for you. For $10, you get the book. It makes a great gift. And then you get one free bottle of DML CBD face serum. So it is a great deal. We ask you to do it as soon as you possibly can so we can get the stuff out to you. dmlcbd.com/store, STORE, in case you don't know how to spell store. So now we've got questions coming in to Denny via email. And we also got them on Facebook. So, Dennis, let's start off with the emails. I know today we've got about another 20 questions.
Yes.
So let's get to them.
All right. First one is from Diane Thomas. I believe we have the means to take back our government. It is through Article 5. I know this has been in the works for some time, and I also believe that the time has come to move on it. What are your thoughts on the Convention of States?
There has been a push for Convention of States for a very long time. This is going back. I mean, when Obama was in office, they were calling for it. Unfortunately, you're never going to get consensus of it. You're never going to have it happen. Not in today's day and age. Great little thing that the Founding Fathers came up with, but it will never end up happening. I'm telling you that right now. We're just such a disconnected country. It never happens.
All right. Lori Johnson. My mom is a Democrat. Whenever she mentions Kamala, my anger boils to a level to where I leave her presence. Her backing of the Kamala ticket makes me view her differently. It's not good. How can my mom, or anyone for that matter, be so asinine? This affects my daily mood. I'm walking around ticked off and grumpy all of the time. Help? ?
You know, there's an old saying, you could pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. Your mother's your mother. You only get one of them. As a person who has had troubled relationships with my mother for most of my life, you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I hate to see relationships like a mother and daughter go awry because of politics. And I think in most years, had you asked me this question, I probably would have said, let it go. Be tight with your mom. You know, one of these days she's going to be gone and it's going to destroy you. However, I think that the future of this country is so dark and dismal if Trump and Vance do not win. Or maybe I should say it differently. We're dark and dismal if Harris and Walz win. Because even if it wasn't Trump, let's just say Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or Ron DeSantis or Dennis Michael Lynch was running for president and I was the candidate or they were the candidate, I think we'd do just as good a job, if not better, than Trump. This is just about how dangerous those two are, Walz and Harris. I would sit down with your mother and I'd say, you lived your life. You've had a really nice life. Not perfect, but you got to live it. And now you're toward the latter part of it. I want to be able to live my life. I want my children to be able to live their life. We want to have the American dream, just like you had the American dream. And your vote is going to bury me and it's going to bury my kids, your grandkids. So I'm asking you, please park the emotion and for one time, think of me instead of thinking of yourself. Think of your country instead of thinking for yourself. And I'm telling you right now, I feel as if you're destroying me and destroying my children's future. And I can't have a relationship with you anymore if that's the way you're going to be. And you move on. Because if it's going to be that contentious, you don't want to have, and that's where I kind of was in relationships with my parents at times. It was so negative and so argumentative. I said, it's not worth it. It just brings me down too bad. And so you walk away from it. And eventually, you get used to it and you move on. No sense of having the pain and anguish. Go ahead.
Susan Yen, why don't you, DML, extend to JD Vance the opportunity to be interviewed by you? You could bring up the debate and some of his missed opportunities.
I've already sent my letter. Anybody who gets the newsletter knows this. If you're not a newsletter reader, you should become one. It's very easy. Go to DennisMichaelLynch.com and sign up for the newsletter. If you're a TeamDML member, you get it every single day. If you are on our free list, you get it on Tuesdays and Fridays. I published on Tuesday my letter to the Trump campaign. I expect that I'm going to get my final answer tomorrow on Friday. If Trump and his campaign reject my very eloquent letter and about how it is that we can reach millions of independent voters, then I'm not going to try with JD Vance. It's useless. Trump is the man who people are electing, not Vance. So I'm going to try it the one time. If they reject it, I will go back to them and say, it's a mistake. I ask you to reconsider. And then if they do it again, then that's where it stops.
Rich and Pat, I would like to know, if you vote early and the candidate you voted for should be killed, God forbid, what happens? Who then would be the candidate? The VP running mate? Or would the whole election cycle need to start over and get new candidates?
So in this scenario, I'm assuming they're saying, without saying the name, if Trump or if Harris were killed or died of a heart attack prior to the election, what happens? Automatically, the VP becomes the candidate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason Warren, what are your thoughts on I would love to see and address the Black nation and have Trump speak from the heart to Black America? While he has gained ground in their communities, there are still too many who still believe everything they hear about him, or else they still can't break the cycle of voting as they always have. I feel that Trump could address their issues and concerns and dive deeper into what he can do for them and how the last presidents did not help. They will not hear of his wins from the media, and that's a lot of what they watch, the mainstream media.
I disagree. I don't think the Black community is watching any media. I think they're online watching the internet. First of all, Trump doesn't need the Black vote in order to win. He didn't have the Black vote in 2016. He won. He didn't have the Black vote in 2020, and I still think he won. When it comes to getting the Black vote for 2024, I think Trump is going to have a pretty successful attendance, if you will, when it comes to the Black community. No doubt. At the same time, I don't think that Trump needs to say anything else to them. He's already proven it. When he was the president in 2016, He did a lot for the black community. Black wages went up. More blacks were working than ever before. Communities saw crime go down. And he did opportunity zones. He also made it so this way black universities would have more funding. If they didn't feel the impact then, I don't know what else to give them. They continuously, the black community, vote for Democrats. There's two reasons why I think this happens. Number one is because the Democrats are always screaming that the white man is a racist. And typically, Republicans put up white candidates. So automatically, by default, you're a racist. Secondly, I think there is a huge, maybe much bigger than we want to accept, a huge part of the black community which is on some sort of welfare. And there is a general panic that if a Republican gets into office, that welfare is going to be ripped from them. Now, that is not a blanket statement for all blacks. I think there's a lot of blacks out there who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to work hard, who do work hard, and want to make something of this opportunity called the American experience. I think if they have a brain, they're voting for Trump, no doubt. But by and large, the black communities have been so damaged from the Democrats, so damaged, promises made, promises broken, that they feel as if they are in this horrible void where nothing's ever going to change in their neighborhoods. And it's always going to wind up being that they're going to need that welfare. So they're going to vote for that welfare. I defend this statement because I've been in some of the most hardened black communities you can mention. South Chicago, parts of Detroit. And you say to yourself, there's no way anybody would ever open a business here. You're not going to convince the people who live here that if they vote for Trump, they're going to wind up getting a job. Mm-hmm. A, do they even want a job at this point? And B, who's going to hire them? Because there's nobody starting new businesses in these horrible, horrible places that are also known as the hood. So until black leadership steps up in a big way and explains in such a way that the Republican Party will be able to bring prosperity back to the black communities if they indeed want it, I think it stays the same. The other thing I have to say is that, 90% of the crime in these black neighborhoods is created by 10% of the people. And until the Democrats start cracking down on that, nothing's ever going to change.
This next one's from Bonnie Day. How will Hurricane Helene affect the vote in those areas? How will the people displaced be able to vote when many polling places are gone?
Early voting obviously is a problem right now for these folks, but November 5 is more than a month away. These waters are going to recede, and when they do, they're going to recede quickly. And I think that you will see power restored. You'll see normalcy restored where it can be restored. Some of these communities are actually shredded. The last thing on their mind right now is voting. They're trying to survive. They're trying to figure out where they're going to sleep, where they're going to store food, how they're going to eat. If they get back on their feet by either means of taking government support, handouts, shelters, or I think most cases would be they'll probably go move in with family members. They will probably figure out a way to vote. Mm-hmm. I'm not as concerned today. I mean, I won't be as concerned November 5 as I am today about these people. If it was next week, I'd be really concerned. But I think that there's going to be a big turnaround in what we see in the next couple of weeks.
From Mike Vale, this is an interesting one. Should Pete Rose be inducted into the Hall of Fame? The baseball player.
Baseball. Pete Rose, for people who don't know, is the leading hit king. He had more hits in baseball than anybody else. He was, for the longest time, a Cincinnati Red. Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame, despite the fact that his stats would put him in there unanimously, because he was caught gambling on baseball games. He never gambled against his team. So in other words, he never fixed a game to win a bet. He always bet for his team. I can understand why baseball cracked down on him. I think it should have been a temporary crackdown. In other words, maybe 10 years instead of a lifetime ban. There are players in the major leagues who have done steroids, who have done drugs, who have raped women, who have created unbelievable crimes, and they're still allowed to be in baseball. I think this should end. I think Pete Rose paid a deep price during his lifetime for not being in the Hall of Fame. He died not being in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be there in the terms of, I was one of the best players ever to play. And I think baseball would make a mistake by not giving him that opportunity. Let me say this. If Pete Rose was black, he'd be in.
Mm-hmm. This next one is from Joanne Kirkman Everett. What I would really like to know is, why does the Republican Party have no good commercials? And why are they not combating or confronting the lies on abortion, Project 2025, or the lie that Trump only takes care of the rich? If we lose this time around, I think this is the reason. You can't have the mainstream media lying every second and no commercials actually conveying the truth, because we live in a world where there is no common sense and lazy people who do not do any research.
You know, up on the screen here, Ryan's got the picture of the two candidates that squared off on Tuesday night. And I was very boisterous yesterday about how I thought that JD Vance failed to demonstrate how dangerous Harris and Walls are for this country. I agree with, who did you say this was?
Joanne.
Joanne? I agree with Joanne. There's a part of what Trump is doing day in and day out, which is old, man. It's old. The rallies may be fun to go to, but they're old. It's the same message replayed. People want a fresh story. They want a fresh face quite often. They want a fresh approach. We did a whole show on this, you and I, not long ago, where I said that if I were leading the campaign for Trump, I would be making a series of videos where the statement from Harris about Trump would be played quick, and then Trump would denounce and give what the truth is. Right now, we get commercials about Trump that look like Trump is a superhero, right? It's him, slow motion. He's got the grimace on, you know, that face. He's going to attack everybody. He's going to get anybody that's in his way. Yeah, he's a fighter. I think he's the best fighter we've ever had politically in our lifetime. But enough. You're not a superhero. You're a human being. Let's get into policy. Let's get 30-second commercials about how you're going to lower the price of everything. I mean, one of the things I loved he did at a rally not so long ago is a woman got up and asked a question. How are you going to lower the prices of everyday items? And he said, I'm going to start off by lowering energy because energy impacts everybody. Mm-hmm. Let's have a 30-second commercial on that. I'd rather have that than see Trump one more time walking onto a stage, one more time walking off his jet. Let's change it up a little bit. And it's a shame that we don't have other people in his campaign, because I think his campaign is, the people working his campaign right now, they suck. It's basically it. Mm-hmm. They're as bad as the ones that DeSantis had working for him.
Mm-hmm. Becky Cooksey. Many states are saying that they are finding illegals voting. Will their votes count? How can they? It's unconstitutional. Yet, Governor Newsom signs a law that bars local governments from asking votes for ID at the polls. How can he get away with this?
Becky, half the country wants illegal aliens to vote. That's the sad part of it all. So yeah, their votes are going to count. Their votes are going to count. And this is another part of where I have heavy criticism for the RNC, the GOP, and the entire Republican Congress. We're doing nothing. to stop this. We're putting it up on Fox News, Newsmax, the DML News app. Everybody's got the story. Illegals are on the voter roll. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then it stops. And then you get Larry Trump saying, "Oh, we're gonna sue the state of Arizona. Oh, we're gonna sue." And then the lawsuits take forever. They never go anywhere. They never go anywhere. We need to be in front of this 4 years before an election, not 4 months. So the sad part is that they are going to count. They are going to count. They're going to count. And at this point, there aren't enough of them, but eventually there will be. So do I think the illegal aliens are going to have an impact on this election? Not on a national level. Maybe local.
Yeah.
Not on a national level. We need to get in front of it real soon, or else future elections are going to be decided by the illegal vote. We talk about the independent vote today. It will be decided by the illegal vote.
Nettie Wilson. I'm going to try and read this as best as I can. I'm an 80-year-old widow. I have investments and hoping to use them if I need to go into assisted living at $6,000 a month. I also own my home. Harris wants to tax me on unseen gains on investments, the wealth tax, and my house if it goes up in value. I'm middle class. I pay quarterly taxes, taxes on my house, taxes on food and medicine, car tax, taxes on Social Security, and pension. What taxes is she going to do away with that is going to help me? She is really going to cause me to go into government-run nursing home. I think I will commit suicide if that happens.
Wow. That's a big topic, very heavy. When you get an 80-year-old person who is basically living out the last chapters of their life, it's supposed to become easy for them. Social Security was designed in such a way that people who were in their golden years were able to sit back, put their feet up, play golf, play parcheesi, go on some vacations, see the world if they possibly could, enjoy their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and have access to the sort of health care that they deserve. We're talking about people like Nettie are the ones who actually helped build this country to the next level. And politicians have absolutely just forgotten them. They do very little, so this way these people could afford the drugs and medications and the health care they need. They've done very little to make sure that Social Security is in line with the cost of living. And politicians treat illegal aliens better than they do U.S. citizens, especially the elderly. And it's because, look, at the end of the day, Nettie's got how many more elections in her? And it's a pathetic way of thinking about it. Now, her question is, I guess, how am I going to survive Kamala Harris doing all the taxation to me? According to Kamala Harris, Nettie will not be taxed because she's not earning $400,000. But you know and I know that that's a BS sort of statement. People right now are getting taxed just from inflation. Inflation is a tax. If you were paying $60 for groceries last year, and now you're paying $180 for it this year, what's the difference between that and being taxed on your paycheck or your Social Security? I don't think Nettie has a choice but to vote for Trump. And I think when you do look at most senior citizens, they do favor Trump. But to hear somebody say that, they would commit suicide because living in an assisted living at $6,000 a month, which is a completely different podcast that we could probably do for 2 hours, that we are putting, I got a buddy, his mother is in assisted living, and it is $6,000 a month. She doesn't have the money. He's paying it. It's sending him broke. So what's the choice that he has? He can't care for her at his home, and he's not going to leave his mother out in the street. $6,000 a month? This is insane. We're going to send billions of dollars to frickin' Ukraine, and we're going to leave the people who created this country into what it was? We're going to leave them in squalor? This is why. I mean, you talk about JD Vance. I didn't hear JD Vance talk about this one time. This is the kind of stuff that needs to be talked about, instead of Project 2025.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I wish I had something to say to Nettie. I don't know what to tell her other than get all your friends to vote for Trump.
Yeah. Loretta Conti. Do you think Vance's failure to answer the question about whether Trump lost the last election was because he believes he didn't? Or did he hold back his opinion because he didn't want to ruffle Trump's feathers? Do you think he is just a yes man? And do you think he has enough political experience and savvy to become president one day?
This kind of question puts me in a very difficult position because as much as Loretta wants me to tell her how I feel, there are, I would guess, 80% of the people listening to this podcast want me to lie to them. People say they want the truth. People say they want honesty. People say they want real news. And then when you give it to them and it goes against what it is that they want to hear, they punish you. I'm at a part in my career right now I could give a rat's ass. I think more about you guys, about you taking over the business. I hate to see you lose anyone. But I didn't want JD Vance from the beginning. I wanted Ben Carson. He was already vetted. We knew what we were getting. We got a little bit of the black vote with it. And it wasn't a guy who was looking to get the vice president role because he was thinking more about his future as president. He was just there to serve. But Donald Trump always makes the wrong choice when it is to align himself. I mean, look at his first administration. The people he put in place were horrible. Look at Michael Cohen. The people put in place is horrible. Just imagine how great Trump could be if he actually knew how to hire the right people. So he takes JD Vance basically on the advice of his son, Don Jr., who, by the way, is engaged to Gavin Newsom's previous wife. That tells you about choices. So do I think JD Vance is a yes man? Abso-freaking-lutely. JD Vance will get up there and he'll give you, and here's where JD Vance's story is a little bit of bullshit, okay? I could read bullshit from a far way away. JD Vance is Ivy League educated. He is as articulate a person as I have ever heard. I mean, I can tell you this. I think I beat him in a debate based on my passion, but he is far more articulate than I am. And yet he's going to sit up there and say that he called Trump Hitler and everything else because he fell for the BS of the mainstream media? Oh, come on. I would rather him say, I didn't like Trump and I grew to like him. It would have been a little bit more authentic for me. So yeah, I think he's a yes man. Yeah, I think he is looking out for his own best interests. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a criticism. Guy wants to be president of the United States. Who doesn't want to be? You don't get into politics saying, I'd really like to be a senator and just stop. You get into politics because you believe that you have what it takes to lead. So I'm not going to begrudge him for wanting to be president one day. In fact, I would say I'd like to hear him say it because it means he's authentic. But yeah, he's a yes man. And what he should have said, what I would have said if I were the VP candidate, I'd say, listen, I have all the fear in me that what happened in 2020 is going to happen in 2024. We know for a fact that dead people voted. We know for a fact that people who moved states voted twice. We know that illegal aliens are on the voter rolls. And we know that the machines were hooked up to the internet when they weren't supposed to be. We know that people tried cheating. We have people being arrested every single month in this country because it's been found that they tried to cheat in an election. Anybody who thinks that elections are not vulnerable to cheating is a moron. The question is, how big and how wide is the cheating? We're the United States of America. We can do things like come up with Facebook Live and all these other different groovy things, ChatGPT. where you could ask, well, what's 5,000 times 2,000 times 3,000 divided by 14 and get the answer in 3 nanoseconds, but we can't figure out how to do a fair election? My ass. You talk about how it is that the judges all throughout, they looked at the evidence. They didn't look at the evidence. They talked about that the other night. That was BS. They didn't look at the evidence. The lawyers who were trying to bring these lawsuits to the forefront were rejected. It never got to trial. They weren't allowed to present things. Look at the way Trump just had to try to defend himself in New York. He wasn't allowed to present experts. He wasn't allowed to present evidence. So don't tell me that the judges gave this a fair and partial look. They did not. And the idea that Trump appointed and Bush appointed judges didn't let this go through. You want to know why they didn't let it go through? Because they know that if the American people found out that there was cheating, the entire system would fall out. The entire system would collapse. It's the same reason why the government hasn't told you that UFOs are floating around for decades, because they don't want people to panic. So that's why it was rejected. At the end of the day, there is cheating in this country. The question is the cheating great enough to alter the election outcome? And I think for the first time in 2020, people said, how the hell are you having people vote for Biden? Mm-hmm. Our economy was powerful. Trump did a great job. Come on. So the fact that he didn't go and defend the truth, which is that he believes that thing was stolen, tells you who he is. He's an articulate politician.
Rosie Carey, are you going to be on the list of creators that accept foreign government money?
This woman is referring to the story we talked about a week or 2 weeks ago, where that company Tenant Media, really run by RT, which is the Russian television, where I think it's Tim Pool, David Rubin, Benny Johnson, and 2 other names I don't know, where they actually got paid millions of dollars from a Russian company that they didn't know was Russia. Good news is, no. Unless Vladimir Putin buys a TeamDML shirt and becomes a member, we only have one form of income.
Yeah, we don't like.
There you go.
We don't like foreign.
We don't like foreign
interference.
Interference. I mean, I don't even put French or Russia dressing on my salad. So we try to stick to just Americans.
Yes.
But no, I'm not going to be on that list unless they just stick me on the list.
Right. Dana Ray, I'm glad that Vance mentioned about Republicans being censored. What can we do about being censored? I think she's referring to the Facebook moment.
Yeah, listen, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is give up on those platforms. Somebody just asked me the other day, why are you still using Facebook? I use Facebook like they use me. I use it to say, I'm going to be on Rumble. I use it to say, come on over to the DML News app. Come on over to TeamDML. X. I use it. Come on over and follow me on X. So I don't go on Facebook to have any kind of meaningful conversations anymore. Ask me a question for SDML. I mean, I got 1.6 million people collectively on there. So I try to bring them over as much as I possibly can. So in fact, if you're listening to this on Facebook, follow me on X, x.com/trustdml. Follow me on the DML News app. It's for free. You could download it from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, and join TeamDML.com for just $30 for the year. We run that special at election time. It usually costs $200. You will not be censored if you come in.
Nancy Lee Manzi, how do you think the attack on Israel will affect us? And do you think we should have a higher awareness of terrorist attacks in the U.S.?
As I said on yesterday's show, I think you're going to wind up seeing the Iranian-Israel problem right now be something that Kamala Harris tries to use to her advantage. Don't be surprised if that's the October surprise, that she's going to be the one to bring peace to the Middle East, temporarily so. I think it absolutely does impact us. We have no choice but to fight for Israel because we are fighting against terror when we do that. Our country is supposed to be anti-terrorist, even though we allow them in through the border. So yes, I think the terror threat to this country is higher than it was pre-9/11. We have terrorists all throughout the United States. They're all operating in plain daylight, and we do nothing about it because we have Biden and Harris and Walz in our leadership.
Next one is Anthony Bauer, and it's actually two different questions. So I'll go with the first one.
Okay.
After the debate, they were talking about the dynasties of the past. In your future outlook opinion, how far down the road do you think the Trump dynasty will continue? Would Don Jr. be Vance's VP? Will Steve Bannon one day be sitting in the Oval Office?
Steve Bannon? Oh my goodness. I don't think the Trump dynasty is going to fade away like many people would hope. There's a part of the country that feels, and I can understand why they feel this way, that when Trump is out of the picture completely, there can be some sense of normalcy in terms of the bickering will stop at the level it is now. However, Trump has been the best fighter for making America great again, for the American people, for America first. So my hope is that he's the guy who loosened the ketchup bottle and somebody else pulls off the cap. I don't think Don Jr. Will be the guy. I think if there's anybody in the Trump world that would be the next sort of torchbearer, it's Eric Trump. I think his speech at the RNC convention was just outstanding. It reminded me of Barack Obama's when he gave his, and I looked to my wife, your mother, and said, he's going to be the next president. And if it's not Eric, I think Lara Trump is thirsty to be a powerful name in the Republican Party, and I think they will be around for a while. The only way that the Trumps fade out is if their father does indeed go to jail and they lose almost everything. Because if that $500 million lawsuit sticks and the $100 million lawsuit for Ian Jean Carroll sticks, they're going to be depleted of incredible amount of cash. So there could actually wind up being a situation where the Trumps say it's just not worth it to us. Let's walk away with what we still have. Possibility. I don't, do I think it's a dynasty like the Kennedys? No. Do I think it's a dynasty like the Bushes? Maybe.
Just a quick add on there. I mean, all his kids do have a lot of kids.
Well, see, to me, when I think of a dynasty, I think of something that happens one after the next. What you're talking about there is maybe we had a Trump for a while and then there's a big pause and then it sort of resurfaces. Sure. Barron, maybe. I don't know, though. I think there's a little something misfire in there. But I mean, I would say Eric Trump would be your next one. Only I just think that the Trump, I've never seen anything in my life like it. There is either an immense amount of love, unconditional, I will take the bullet for you love for Trump, or there is the I want to put a bullet in you hatred. It just depends on which one has more sway. And I think we may find this out in the next 30 days.
All right. Anthony's second question was, what were your favorite songs on your mixtapes or albums? And when you played them in the weight room in high school, we were always big on Metallica.
We were a little less heavy metal, more rock. Van Halen. Van Halen was huge back when I was in high school. That's what you would usually listen to. If not Van Halen, maybe a little bit of AC/DC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't really have a lot of rap back then, so there was none of that kind of stuff playing. But it was rock. So it was usually Van Halen was huge. Van Halen, AC/DC, maybe the Who.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah. Carla Gagliotti, who is a good friend of ours, so shout out to Carla.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Candace Owens?
I'm not a fan. I'll leave it at that way. I'm not a fan.
Okay. All right. So then we actually have three last questions, and they all come from me, Ryan, and Ashley.
All right.
I'll go first. If you were president, how would you intervene in the Iran and Israel situation?
Well, I'll answer that in the sense of saying I don't want to go to full-blown war, right? I don't want to go to war. I am going to force my allies, force them to join with me in putting the most egregious, heavy sanctions you can on Iran and anyone who does business with Iran. Russia is right there. China is right there. You do a worldwide sanctions on that, it will stop. It will 100% stop. And that's the only way you're going to stop them, unless you wipe them off the face of the earth. I don't want to get into war, so I'm going to try sanctions heavily. And I mean the kind of sanctions to where the Iranian people would almost be starving. Yeah, it's the only way. The Iranians stand for hatred and destruction, and they want to literally wipe Israel off the face of the earth. That has to be stopped. Whether you agree with Israel, you like Israel, or you're not, no country deserves to be wiped off the face of the earth if they're not trying to wipe off somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You follow? And Israel didn't pick the fight. The fight was picked with them.
Ryan, you, I know you have a question that you want to ask.
Time for my
Dad here.
question.
Yeah.
So mine is about the port strike.
The port strike.
Yeah. Do you think that will crush the economy? And I guess what would you do if you were in the position to, fix it? How would you fix it?
So the port strike is very dangerous in the sense that for every day that the ports are closed, we have a 6-day delay on imports. So if we have a 10-day strike, let's say, that you're talking about 2 months. If that thing goes for a month, you're talking about 6 months. This will heavily, heavily impact the United States of America. And if you want to have a sense for what it is like, go back and think about what things were like during COVID, when you couldn't find things on the shelves. And then think about how much you paid for things eventually. This is 2.0. The longshoremen have a concern, and I don't think that concern is going to get solved. That's why I'm so concerned about this port strike. The longshoremen are upset because in their last agreement contract with these ports, the ports agreed that they would not automate, and yet they did. And the more that these companies make, the more billions of dollars they have, the more they can invest in things like automation. So the more they automate, the more they go to robotics, the less they need people. This is the price we pay for technology being blessed in this country. This is the price we pay for AI development. And eventually, there will be no more longshoremen. There will be maybe a couple of guys who are there just to make sure that everything is automated and running. The longshoremen are what I would say is shit out of luck, as sad as that sounds. But they are going to be eliminated as a group. And therefore, my concern is there isn't enough automation yet to do it without people. And unless they get what they want, they're not going back to work. So I think that this is going to be a very, very dangerous strike. Even if they temporarily get something in place for a cool down period, unless they get what they want, these guys are just going to show up to work, and instead of processing 20 containers an hour, they'll process 2. They are gonna. I saw one of the leaders in a video, and he is not budging. Because he says, I had people, longshoremen, who went to work during COVID when everybody else was told to go home and stay, tucked away. We had to work. And I got people who died doing this. So if you think I'm going to bend, you're wrong. These guys are dug in. So this may last for a long period of time, and it's going to totally impact the country. It's going to set inflation back up again. It's going to really hit us hard. What would I do, Ryan? I would force these longshoremen to go back into work right now, albeit even if they did it half-ass. And then I would be seriously sending some of my best negotiators to sit down with the longshoremen and to sit down with the companies and try to figure out how it is you could have best of both worlds. The longshoremen doing their job and doing some sort of automation that still requires human beings to do their job, but maybe may be able to lower costs in other areas. So this way, everybody's happy. It's a temporary fix. It's like putting a Band-Aid on cancer, but at least it'd stop the bleeding a little bit right now while we try to figure out another way.
All right. This last question comes from Ashley. She and I had just discussed about it, and it's relatively new. It broke out in the last 24 hours. So just to give some context, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, a recent report on Daily Mail just came out, and it's been corroborated, and there seems to be evidence that Emhoff, back in 2012, struck his girlfriend at the time in the face because she was, quote-unquote, flirtatious with another man at a film festival event. So in discussion with Ashley, she was wondering if this comes out more and there really is more evidence to showcase it, could this be a campaign ender for Kamala? And do you think she could lose woman votes in mass numbers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, there's always October surprises. If this is the one that's coming out now, there's going to be worse ones coming out later. So, yeah, this is going to hurt her. I don't know how they're going to bury the story other than just not reporting on it, which may actually wind up being the case. The mainstream media may just absolutely ignore it. And think how pathetic that is.
Yeah.
If you've got a real story, if this story has teeth and it was against Trump, it would be front and center every single day. Look what they tried to do to him in 2016. Women coming out of the woodwork. He touched me on an airplane. I mean, all this different stuff. And it was just all hearsay, and it still got top page. This will probably be buried. New York Times won't spend on it. CNN won't say. They'll say it's speculation, it's hearsay, it's BS, whatever. Where's the videotape? So, but what will happen is if there's a lot of this stuff starting to come out, then you may actually see where it will have its impact. And it will definitely hurt her. No doubt it will hurt her. Yeah. Unless she announces that she's going to divorce him because of it. That could be your October surprise.
That could. Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. I have a question for you because I think we should incorporate Ask DML and Ask Denny. I think people should ask both of us questions. So I have a question for you. If you were the president, right? If you were the president, with everything that's going on right now, in 2 minutes or less, what would be your first move and how would you do it?
In general?
We have all these problems. What would be the first thing you try to tackle and how would you tackle it?
I think day one, hour one, I would get the heads of major Border Patrol sectors, current heads of DHS, which I guess would be people I would have appointed. And I would be either sketching out or presenting an already sketched out massive plan for a massive deportation effort across the country that likely could be done very effectively in 1 month, but can be done completely in a 6-month period. I think I would start with the worst of the worst that came over here with the bad intentions. Then I would go into those that came in with good intentions, but still they need to pay the price of committing a crime like they did. And then I would ensure that border is both physically and then also spiritually, meaning Border Patrol has the efforts and the resources and enthusiasm to make sure that border is tight-knit, secure, and can never be crossed again.
All right. I buy into it.
That would be my
so immigration would be your first.
My immigration
thing.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Next time we'll ask Ryan. We'll do an Ask Ryan. All right. Until the next time, don't forget dmlcbd.com/store, STORE. You can get this nice dry fit shirt, $25. You get 2 free bottles of DML CBD face serum along with it. When you do that, you're supporting us staying in business. And also dmlcbd.com/store also offers the $10 gift. You can go in there and you can get yourself the Wild Adventures of Robin and Summer or anything else that we have up there. I think we got bumper stickers and some other stuff. $10, you get 1 free bottle of DML CBD face serum. So please go in there and do that. as soon as you possibly can so we can get it out to you ASAP. Thank you so much. Don't forget, tomorrow, God willing, it will be myself and Miss Mary doing a DML News podcast. I think we're going to be talking about migrants. We're going to be talking about the floods. And I think your mother's got something else up her sleeve that we're going to be talking about as well. But that's that. Make sure you chime into that tomorrow. That's always a very popular show, and we appreciate it when you're with us. Until the next time, may God bless you, our troops, these United States, and Donald J. Trump.
And today's TeamDML blessing goes out to Danny Redman.
All right, Danny, have fun with it. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and TeamDML.